This is Aaron Murakami with Eric Dollard, and this is going to be a new presentation for this advanced seismic warning system. This is the springtime work effort on transmission structure Area 52-E. And this is a project with Eric Dollard and EPD Laboratories, Inc., which is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation based out of Nevada. And you can, if you'd like to support the project with tax-deductible donations, you can go to ericpdollard.com and look in the right column, and you will see the information on how to send donations to EPD Labs. Several months ago, before the conference, Eric did another narrated PowerPoint presentation, which is basically what this is, with photographs that Eric and both Justin Miller, who is on the board with EPD Laboratories. Justin does most of the work out in the field with Eric on these transmission lines. And of course, the goal is to complete an advanced seismic warning system, which we had raised funds through Indiegogo a few times and through other private donations and just anybody willing to pitch in. And quite a bit of progress has been made. This is to create a Tesla Alexanderson type transmission system with improvements by Eric. And there was a full working system at Landers. If you go to ericpdollard.com, in the left column you'll see categories, and you can click on the link that says Landers, and you can kind of see a lot of the pictures of a fully working facility that was in operation several years back. And this is an effort to replicate that. And it's not just for earthquake detection 48 to 72 hours ahead of time, any earthquake 6.0 and above, but also to demonstrate a lot of the Tesla transmission type principles and concepts that are quite contrary to a lot of the popularized physics with Einstein and that kind of thing. So anyway, we'll have Eric kind of walk you through photo by photo so you can see the progress of working on the lines, the equipment that they're acquiring. And right now this is we're getting towards the end of September, and the goal is that by early to mid-December that we can start showing signals coming out of the ground. And it's not going to be full with all the full equipment and everything, but it'll prove the point. And then once the project reaches that point, the goal is to actually build a little facility near a mine or in a mine with all the control equipment, with the scopes and everything else, to move in the direction of replicating pretty much what was at Landers. So anyway, we'll turn it over to Eric, and he will explain what you're going to see in the photos.
Okay, so we'll go through the step-by-step process of what we've been working on. So the first thing, at either end of the line, there has to be a dead-end guying arrangement to hold the mile of wires that's going to be stretched between the two ends. So this is the terrain that we're working in. There's the dog. These are the dead-end poles and the arms and the things that we're putting the assembly together with. So here the pole is being readied for the attachment of the hardware. The cable TV line that you see on the poles, the first step in our next work effort in the winter will be to take approximately 1.25 miles of that down, because that's interferes with the basic operation of the system. So that will be the first effort involved. So here I'm starting to untangle the guy wire we glommed from some defunct utility poles that we found in another part of the desert, so it all needs to be unkinked and wrestle with it. So it was already pretty much assembled for us with the strain insulator, and it's the right size and everything, so we'll cut it to length. This is the materials we'll be using in this project. So this guy here, this is the other guy assembly that's being tightened up. This is where we're going to separate the cable TV line. As you see, there's this direction here. This goes in the direction of what we're constructing, and then this end of the cable TV line we're going to keep intact. So when we cut this point here, we don't want the pole yanking forward and to screw this up, because we might use it to send the signal back in town. So this right here is the dead end guy, and you can see it's in the process of being tightened up. This hole was very difficult to dig in this for this anchor here because this fused volcanic ash just sends the breaker bar flying right back at you. But we got it done. Now this is what's called the stub guy pole. This is the one we're going to use to make the main dead end for our transmission structure. So the hole digging process seems to have gotten left out in the series here, but at any rate this is where it's set in the ground, and this is the other stub that the guy is actually going to be anchored to the earth with. So the hole is being drilled here to put the guy attachment in. This is the length of line we'll be working on. What we accomplish is all these poles you see going back up to the hilltop shack here. Well, the bad ones will be replaced, and we, in this work episode, put up 20 some odd, almost 30 cross arms and have this antenna run pretty much ready to go. So that's what we'll show. Here's the dead end guy is attached and the stub guy so that people don't hit it with their pickup trucks or whatever. And then we have to tighten this thing up to get it ready to anchor, connect it to the main anchor, which will take up the load of the entire antenna or transmission structure more properly. So this is the down guy, the stub pole, and then the anchor guy. These will be the cross arms that we're going to put the dead end assembly together with. It's another view of it there. So we have to preload this thing so the pole is pulled backwards a little bit, because when the wires are all loaded on there, this thing's going to tighten up and then the pole straightens out. So there's the strain insulator that prevents the lightning and other type of mishaps from getting somewhere where someone could be leaning on the guy wire in a lightning storm and get themselves killed. So we have to prevent all those kind of things. That's the view of the length of the line again. So let's see, this is we're working our way in someplace here through the desert to get the cross arms. Now, this is digging the holes. The computer has mixed all the pictures up, so I won't be able to really give you a series here. This is digging the holes for the guy anchors. We have to use water to start to soften the stuff up and then bust through. After about 6 inches, it's smashing in the rock. So we make up a slurry, and then as the moisture penetrates, the stuff becomes more breakable, and then we make about 1.5 inches of progress, and then we shovel it out and start over again. So this is where the hole is being dug here for the stub, and this is where the hole is being dug for the anchor. As I say, the computer has mixed all the pictures up. It loves to do that. The little tweak inside always plays with you, so that's why I reject this technology, but I'm stuck with it now. So these are poles we salvaged from some debris where in the previous photograph the car was seen slithering through the bushes. We're out there gathering old busted up stuff in the wash and whatever, and then we cut these things up and cut the rotten parts off. So there's no creosote, and the pole's old, so we recreosoted it before it goes in the ground. So you can see the poles are being readied for their insertion. The holes are about complete. And then we're dropping them in. That's the stub. No, that's not the stub, that's the anchor. The stub's already been dropped in. This is the one that takes the load of the entire line. That's in its hole. These things all have to be set back a little bit of an angle so they don't start leaning forward when you put a load on them. And then painting it up and readying it for the hole. And this is once it's in the hole, then we go to these abandoned mines and we get ourselves breakup rock to pound down in the holes to give a rock foundation and porous so that the hole can breathe and the pole doesn't rot. So fortunately, being the Nevada desert is just literally saturated with mines, there's no problem in finding rock and gravel to do all your rock and gravel projects. Oh, here I'm smashing this stuff into the hole. You have to whack it down in there real good with a lot of big rocks. That makes it strong. So one pole's in. Now I'm doing the same with the anchor. And they're in the holes. Here I'm digging another hole. This one I think is for the cable TV dead end line that was shown in the beginning. This one was particularly difficult. The rock was very hard. This is we're surveying the holes in the end section, the other end of the line where the poles are all rotten and they were gone, or we had to remove the rotting remains. So now we're putting markers in of where we're going to dig the holes and replace the rotten ones. Okay, now we're back to the dead end guy. And we've dropped them in and they're set in place. Now we're tightening the whole guy wire assembly up using the pickup truck as a temporary anchor. And then here you can see we have cross arms already up. Like I say, the computer has moved everything out of sequence, so there's no way that I can show the serial progression of the project, so it's going to be all randomized. So these titles are, okay, here's where I'm digging the anchor for the cable TV dead end. Getting down a little deeper, starting to get pretty hard. You can see the anchor off to the side, creosoted, and it's in its place. Okay, now that we have the dead end guy up on the near end, those are the 4 cross arms ready to go up. They have to be fitted with their insulators and bolts and drilled. So we have to cut the notch in the pole for the cross arm to set in and drill the bolt hole, so that's shown right here. Now the dead end insulators are being attached after their holes have been drilled. So this is what goes up in the air, and this is the process of one of the arms, the back one without the insulators, being put in place. And its braces are being installed. The braces are installed, so the back arm is on. Now the front arm goes on. This is where the actual line wires will attach. There'll be 3 pairs in this. There'll be 2 outside carrier pairs that will dead end here. This one and this one, and then there'll be the pole pair. The Alexanderson antenna will be on the pole pair, and the Beveridge antennas will be on the carrier pairs, and this cable TV thing will be totally removed. Well, one of the reasons we chose this particular spot, the dead end of the line, is there's a possibility of getting a halfway reasonable ground in this very non-conductive rock because it's in a wash, and this was one of the strongest and highest poles in that area, so it was a logical choice, the dead end. Okay, now the braces are going on, and the through bolts are being adjusted to straighten it all out. And then we have a completed dead end assembly to attach the 3 pairs with the completed guy. And then this is the run that we're going to take down the cable TV coax, and then in this project, when we're done, which we have completed, all these poles have cross arms on them now. And then you can see where we're going to finally end up here at the shack, but we're going to dead end at a more convenient point right now, just to make this project move faster, so we're not in delay of trying to put up more poles and more cross arms, and we don't have quite enough wire and whatever. So now this is cutting what's called the gain. That's the slot that the cross arm fits in. That's the first step, is to cut the gain and drill the through hole. And now this is the dead ending at the far end of the line. So this is the shack, but we're going to dead end where the truck is parked here because the poles are all rotten back here, and we're kind of short on wire, and we're going to put our ground back here, but the actual mechanical and electrical dead end will be on this little ridge. So we already put our dead end guy up here in one of the previous episodes so that we could cut off the cable TV line, and the previous episode show where we had all these dilapidated poles hanging in the air, and we had to levitate them and do all kinds of things to get them out of there without clobbering ourselves and breaking anything. So the coax has been cut off here. This end will be removed, and the dead end is already put in. This was a particularly difficult hole to dig. Each of us made 6 inches of progress a day. and really wore ourselves out. And this is going to be a double dead ending arrangement because there's a corner here where the line will continue to go on up to the shack. So we're going to get all the arms up for that. This is going to be a very elaborate operation. All the cross arms here are loaded on the truck. So now the geometry has to be laid out for all the insulators and the bolts. That's what I'm working on there. These cross arms, a lot of them were glom from a line we took down from the water department, and then others we found scattered out in the Mojave Desert from old telegraph lines and what have you, collected up. So we have our necessary 30 arms for this project. These are all the bolts and hardware that we're going to use for this. We got those in the Raider of the Lost Glom episode in Sacramento, and which are very helpful for all this. We got cases of them and cases of insulators, which are going to get used up very voluminously here. So drilling is continuing. Okay, now one of the poles in the back also has a dead end on it because that's going to carry the ground wires into the earth connection, because the terrain back here, particularly this gully and what have you, will allow for some level of reasonable grounding with ground rods. Otherwise, we have to come up with the money to put in 30 to 100 foot well casing type holes for the grounds, and that's been estimated at $10,000. So we're going to have to get a grant or something to do that. So in the meantime, we're just going to try to do what we can with ground rods to show some kind of performance. So this is the other dead end assembly for the ground wire connections down in the wash. This pole was difficult to work with. It's a porcupine pole, but it's still strong. So that's completed, and the ground rods will be lined up. A row of them will go on this wash here, and then we'll have a heavy 4-gauge aluminum conductor will come up, and then this will be the grounding connection for the dead end, which will be the next pole up on the hilltop, which is here. And here's the guy anchor that we put in the previous episode that I was telling you it was so difficult to dig the hole for. Okay, we were out of dead end insulators. We have to go glom some more, so we didn't get them all on this cross arm, but we got the holes and everything in. So now we're preparing to put them in place. So a lot of drilling and a lot of fitting involved in this, because there's going to be 4 arms total. It's going to be a pair of dead ends, the dead end that takes it down into the wash and the dead end that takes up the strain on the transmission structure, or so-called antenna. So you got to be careful all this stuff fits together right, because you don't want to get it up there and find out you put a hole in the wrong spot. Okay, so one dead end arm is up. Its brace is in place. Now the second one's going on, and getting that squared up with its through bolts. And it looks like it's all squared. And that is the finished product. Now the corner, we're making a corner here, so we need another guy and another set of dead end arms for the transmission structure. Is going to come, get this thing to work, is going to come this way. It's going to replace the dead end, the cable TV line. So our 3 pairs will terminate on this cross arm, and then the line will continue to go up to the shack eventually. So that's the dead end for these cross arms, and there's a corner angle here, so that's why we got the corner guy. There's not going to be such a dead end load on this because the ground pole's got dead ends on it also, so we're going to forego a second dead end guy right now, because it kind of gets into a place where a drunk in a pickup truck could smash into it at night. We have a lot of that activity in this part of the desert. So that's all being fitted. And there is the finished assembly. Took probably about 2 days effort to get this thing all together. And that's what it looks like from the distance. So this is where the transmission structure is going to end, and then the one that was shown in the beginning, that's going to be the origin of the line. And okay, this is eventually where we're going to put our receiving equipment to begin with as a temporary terminal facility, but we have to put more cross arms and we have to put more grounding, and there's 5 poles that have to be replaced, so we're going to hold off on that. So this will be the dead end pole when the antenna is at that length. This is the old cable TV structure here that held the UHF dish that pointed to a distant city. We cleaned up the shack in a previous episode. We still have to build a door on it and the proper roof and clean it out and all that, so that's going to cost another couple $1,000. We don't have right off, but we have it secured. That's another view of it to give you an idea of what the area looks like around there. It's very dead desert, very ungroundable. It's another view. Okay, and then we have our actual seismograph station built in a mine, and then the portal of the mine is where we're going to build the main terminal facility when we're done. So the computer has messed up all the images, so I can't show you the sequence of the work, but that's what it looked like after we resurfaced the edge around it. And this is the old door we have to replace that the Hoons keep blasting their guns into and opening up, so we're going to put a hatch there instead. So this is the door frame being refitted. We already have the through holes for our signal and power cables to go through. And that's the inside of the mine. The seismograph sensors are in an intermediate location. The mine itself goes back about 1,000 feet, so that'll be another experimental Alexanderson antenna. Will go in there to see what they do when they're actually inside the earth. It's the framing. And here's you can see the hatch is getting ready to go on. And then we're weatherproofing, painting. And here is the attached hatch. And because there's no need to go in there and fool around with much anything right now, it's all bolt on, and that makes it harder for the vandals and the Hoons and the snight heads to tamper with the door and break their way inside. This is the utility pole that we had to clean up to get rid of all the dangling wires and everything, and burned out insulators. This is going to be the power supply for the thing, and we have our telephone line coming in to take the seismograph signal in the town. We had to get all that connected back together. It had been all cut. Here's the line going into the seismograph mine, and this portal around here is where we will build the terminal building. That'll be about $35,000. It'll be in the form of a concrete bunker with a steel door, which will keep the temperature rather stable and keep the destructive human elements out. This is where the telephone line mechanically terminates, going into the seismograph mine. Okay, now this is putting up the about 20 some odd, I believe 24 cross arms in between that the transmission structure is going to go on. So here's one that's already up. So there was 24 poles we had to do this on, if I remember right. So you have to kind of struggle with that thing up in the air and use your belt to hold it in place and lift it. It's kind of hairy. So these are the poles awaiting the arms. We have finished putting the arms on all these poles. I think we'll see some of that here. And that's now the arms are up. So that took a couple weeks. Here's the process of another arm being installed. So we work our way down the line. The dog is wrestling with an alligator lizard, which bit the dog on the nose. I missed it on film, unfortunately. It was a very interesting episode to observe. Okay, so we keep going here up the right of way, inserting cross arms. There's one getting ready to go up. And that is the hole has been drilled. It's got to be in line with all the others, so the cross arm's straight. We're looking through the hole in the utility pole. Justin's getting anchored physically, his body here, getting ready for the ordeal. Okay, the gain has been cut, so the cross arm can be put in place. Cross arm with its bolt has been hoisted up and is on the climbing belt, and then it was installed. Here's the last Raiders of the Lost Glom episode. We found some stuff in Utah from prehistory. This is our pull yard in the back where we unload all this stuff. So here's more of the cross arm work. So I think this is actually the finished. Now all the cross arms are on the poles. So the next step now is to put the glass insulators on, and we have 5 miles of field telephone wire, which we're going to use as a temporary conducting material for this because it's easy to handle, and it's in 1,000-foot sections, which are about right for the loading networks. So we're back to raising cross arms again. And then we're back to this. Okay, now this is some of the glom we got. We got a bunch of military field radio equipment, transmitters and things that I'd lost at previous locations. So this is going to be, most of this is going to be for the HF communications facility that goes along with this for transmitting and receiving data and studying the ionosphere. This is a load of Navy equipment that we just recently received, and then we have some raw material to assemble the chart recorder assemblies out of for the seismograph and the various signal levels for the telluric receiving. This is a very rare collection here of Bell telephone books called Bell System Practices. It gives all the schematics for all their equipment and their construction procedures, and I have about half of them here, and then the person that has the assembled telephone exchange facility that's shown on the website, he has the other half, so we interchange as we need. Eventually we'll try to get them all in one spot. Here is we are climbing a 35-foot utility pole to cut back to a 30-foot pole to replace a rotten pole that was also too short on the right of way because we don't want anyone hitting the wires. So now we have to figure out by ourselves how to get this stuff on the truck. This is the retired lineman Jack, who does not want to be retired, so he's always there with us helping out, and very valuable assistance in all of this because of his experience and his desire to assist with the project. So at any rate, it looks impossible, but we're trying to figure out how we're going to get this pole on the truck. Everyone has told us is impossible, but we don't accept impossibilities. So the first step is to figure out how to get the butt end anchored so we can back the truck into it and get it in this position, and then we're going to cut about 5 feet of rod off of it to get our 35-foot pole. So the pole is now where it's going to sit on the truck, and then it is attached and ready to go to the pole yard. People tend to gork at this stuff through town because it's not a 6-wheel pickup truck, but then no one really needs a 6-wheel pickup truck anyway, so we do it all with this, or my Corolla. There it is. These vehicles work in defiance of the beef monster mentality that's rampant throughout this country. Here are some feral kittens that emerged from one of the pallets in our pole yard. They disappeared a few days later, but at any rate they came out to join us for a while. The town is filled with feral cats, which has eliminated the rat population, which is very helpful for getting your stuff all eaten up by the rats. Okay, it's back to the pole yard again. This is all the iron wire we glommed from an old World War II Army telephone line that the water department had utilized and then didn't need it anymore, and we cleaned up 2.2 miles of that for them, and then got a lot of insulators and pins and other things. This is now we're at the glom in Utah. This is a Bell Telephone Type O carrier system which operates in the Alexanderson band, so we are going to be so bold as to try to attempt to transmit a 4-channel wideband frequency division multiplexing telephone signal into this antenna and see if it's successful to transmit 4 telephone calls over this. But equipment's kind of scattered, and I don't know if we can really assemble the whole thing. But we also got a lot of valuable transformers. You can see there's like tubes and capacitors, and we got quite a bit of stuff out of here. Valuable transformers and a lot of Bell telephone test equipment. It's a very successful GLOM mission. This is more of the GLOM that has been piled up and rotting in these containers in Utah. We got another wire reeling apparatus. You can see the racks and things that we got. In the background here, this shows some of the oscillators and power supplies and carrier equipment and things, networks and filter capacitors and various audio transformers, and we did quite good in this location for only about $200. We got most of it. I got to go back and get some more. This is our Glommeister, Steve, preparing to unload the stuff. And that's it. Thank you for viewing this, and we'll show you more pictures as we make progress.